Jack Callahan had chosen Whiskey Ridge for a simple reason. It was quiet, remote, and perfect for someone who wanted to disappear from the world. After years as a soldier, and even more years wrestling with the memories that followed, he just wanted peace. The little cabin by the river was his sanctuary, a place where no one knew his name or his past. But one rainy afternoon, that peace was interrupted. At the gas station by the edge of town, Jack noticed a woman standing alone. She was soaked from head to toe, her red scarf sticking to her wet hair, and her eyes held a kind of sadness that made Jack's chest tighten. She didn't look like someone lost or asking for help, but there was something in her silence that pulled at him. Jack, used to seeing pain and hiding people, offered her a ride without asking too many questions. When she got into his truck, she told him simply that she wasn't looking for trouble, but Jack, with a slight smile, said trouble had a way of finding people like them. That was the start of something neither of them expected. The woman's name was Claire. She didn't say much at first. She seemed to carry a weight too heavy for words, and Jack didn't push. She stayed in the spare room of his cabin, helped around the house quietly, and spent long hours staring out at the river, lost in her thoughts. Jack found himself watching her, wondering what brought her here, and why she seemed so broken yet so strong. After a few days they started talking, not about her past or his, just small things like the weather or what they liked to eat. But those small talks grew into something warmer. Coffee in the mornings turned into shared dinners, and slowly, Claire began to smile again. Jack felt it too. The walls he had built to keep out the world were starting to come down. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Claire finally shared a part of her story. She told Jack about a man she once loved, someone who had changed her life in ways she never imagined. This man, she said, had made monsters out of people, turned love into fear. She believed he was dead now. Or at least, that was what she hoped. Jack listened quietly, knowing better than to ask for details. Some stories were too painful, and some scars ran too deep to be opened too soon. But holding her hand, he knew that trust was beginning to grow between them. It wasn't perfect. The past still hung in the shadows, but for the first time in a long time, both Jack and Claire felt a kind of peace. They were building something new, something real, and it was fragile and beautiful. By the time spring arrived, their days together had settled into a quiet rhythm filled with laughter and gentle moments. Jack found himself planning for a future he hadn't dared to imagine, and Claire let herself hope again. They weren't just two broken souls anymore. They were partners, healing slowly together. Yet, beneath the calm surface, an unspoken tension remained, as if the past was waiting for the right moment to break through. But in the safety of Jack's cabin by the river, Claire finally felt like she belonged somewhere, and Jack, for the first time, wasn't alone anymore. Jack and Claire's fragile peace began to feel more real with every passing day. But old shadows have a way of creeping back, no matter how far you run. One Friday night, Jack decided it was time to take Claire out of the quiet cabin life and into the small town nearby. He thought a simple night out at the local bar would help her feel more at home. The bar was a place filled with familiar faces, clinking glasses, and the kind of music that made people slow dance and forget their troubles, even if only for a little while. Jack and Claire sat close, drinking cold beer and moving gently to the rhythm of a slow song. For a few moments they were just two people laughing and smiling, their worries left outside with the rain. But then Jack noticed a man watching Claire from across the room. He stood near the entrance, wearing a worn denim coat and a calm, too easy smile. His eyes were fixed on Claire in a way that made Jack's heart tighten. This wasn't just a glance from a stranger. It was something deeper, colder. Claire's expression changed the moment she saw him. Her face went pale, and she stopped moving. Jack asked quietly if she knew the man, and she whispered a name that made his blood run cold. Caleb. The man she said was supposed to be dead, the very man who had haunted her past. Jack could see the fear and pain in Claire's eyes, the memories rushing back like a storm she'd tried to forget. But instead of running, Jack stood by her side. He didn't want her to face Caleb alone, not after everything she had been through. Caleb approached them with slow steps, his smile twisting into something cruel as he spoke. "Well, well, look at you, hiding behind a soldier now," he said, his voice low and mocking. The bar fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Jack felt the old soldier inside him wake up, ready to protect what was his. Without warning, Caleb shoved Jack hard. The fight exploded suddenly. Chairs scraped back and people scrambled to the sides, giving the two men space to clash. Caleb threw the first punch, sharp and angry, but Jack was ready. He blocked the blow and returned with a force that slammed Caleb into the jukebox, making the music stop cold. The crowd watched, tense and quiet. Then Caleb pulled a knife from his coat, a flash of steel under the dim bar lights. Fear tightened Jack's chest, but his training kicked in. He grabbed Caleb's wrist, twisted it, and forced the blade away. Blood dripped from a cut on Caleb's hand, but Jack stayed steady. The bar erupted into shouts and chaos as the sheriff's deputies burst in. Caleb, wounded but not beaten, slipped away into the night before they could catch him. Jack helped Claire out of the bar, holding her close, as the rain started again, cold and relentless. Back at the cabin, Claire finally let down her walls. She told Jack the truth she had kept hidden for so long. It wasn't just love that tied her to Caleb. It was fear and guilt. She had worked for him, moving money and helping set people up. She had been part of a world full of danger and dark secrets. When she realized what Caleb really was, she ran away, but never dared to call the police or tell anyone, afraid of what might come back to hurt her, or worse, to hurt Jack. Her voice broke as she spoke, weighed down by years of regret. Jack listened without judgment, his hand never leaving hers. He asked if she thought that made her a bad person, and Claire whispered that she felt guilty every day. But Jack saw something else. Someone who had the courage to leave the darkness behind and start over. That night, they packed their things, not to run, but to prepare. They knew Caleb would not disappear easily, and this time they wouldn't be caught off guard. Together, they made a plan to face the danger head-on. 3 nights later, under the cover of darkness, Caleb returned. His eyes burned with anger and hatred as he stood in Jack's front yard, a gun in his hand. But Jack was ready, calm and steady. He called out to Caleb, telling him to step into the light if he wanted to settle things. Claire stood beside Jack, holding the phone, connected to the sheriff. They weren't alone this time. The tension filled the air as Caleb hesitated, then dropped the gun when the deputies arrived seconds later. The nightmare that had haunted Claire was finally over. Jack and Claire stood together, bruised but unbroken, ready to leave the past behind and face the future as one. After the dangerous night with Caleb ended, Jack and Claire finally had a chance to breathe. The threat was gone, but the weight of what Claire had shared still hung heavily between them. She felt like a prisoner of her own past, a past filled with mistakes and choices that haunted her every day. Sitting together in the quiet of the cabin, Claire broke down completely. She told Jack everything, the fear, the guilt, and the reasons she had stayed silent for so long. She admitted how she had once worked for Caleb, how she had helped move money and set people up, actions that made her feel deeply guilty. She explained that she had run not just because she feared him, but because she wanted to find a way to be free from the darkness she was part of. Jack listened, not with anger or judgment, but with calm and understanding. He asked her gently if she thought that made her evil. Claire's answer was soft and honest. She thought it made her guilty, but Jack's quiet strength gave her hope. He told her that no one is defined by their past mistakes alone, and that what mattered most was her courage to face the truth and start fresh. Together, they made a decision to stop running. They would face whatever came next side by side, no matter how hard it was. Claire's past might not disappear, but Jack was there to help her carry it. They packed their belongings, not out of fear, but to be ready for whatever might come. They knew Caleb was still out there somewhere, and they could no longer afford to be caught off guard. Jack's steady presence gave Claire the courage she had lost for so long. Then one cold, quiet night, Caleb returned. His eyes were full of rage as he stood in the front yard of the cabin, holding a gun like he owned their world. But Jack didn't flinch. Calm and strong, he called out to Caleb, telling him to step into the light if he wanted to end things. Claire was right there beside him, her hand steady on the phone line connected to the sheriff's office. This time, they weren't alone, and Caleb knew it. After a tense moment, Caleb dropped the gun and surrendered. The nightmare that had haunted Claire was finally over. With Caleb gone, peace began to settle over the little cabin by the river. Weeks passed, and slowly, the heavy shadow that had followed Claire began to lift. One morning, Jack found Claire, outside, planting flowers near the riverbank. The sun was just rising, casting warm golden light over the quiet water. Jack joined her, and without saying much, he kissed her forehead. When he asked if she still felt guilty, Claire nodded, but with a new kind of hope in her eyes. She told Jack that she was learning something important, that people don't bury their past by hiding from it, but by planting over it, by growing something new from the ground where pain once lived. Jack squeezed her hand gently, knowing she was right. They had both been broken in many ways, but together, they were growing something stronger and more beautiful. They weren't perfect, and their pasts were complicated, but their future was theirs to shape. They understood that love was not about forgetting the past, but about accepting it and choosing to move forward anyway. In that quiet moment by the river, they found a new kind of peace, one born from truth, courage, and the power of second chances. The lesson they learned was clear and simple. No matter how dark or difficult the past might be, it doesn't have to define you. What matters most is the choice to face your fears, to trust someone enough to share your pain, and to build a future together. Jack and Claire's story was a reminder that healing doesn't happen alone. It happens in the small moments of kindness, in the strength to stand side by side, and in the hope that love can grow even from the deepest wounds. Their journey wasn't over, but for the first time in a long time, they were ready to face it. Not as broken people running from the past, but as two souls planting the seeds of a new life, together.